That gives me the question, is it better to contract the in-house supplier as a single package, even for those control automation systems, or are they better ways to split the contracts? How is it from your perspective?
So in principle, I would say it's better, of course, to have a single source or a single point of interface with everything. We can handle everything. We can handle the sub-suppliers. We can handle the different systems and different equipments. But in the same, also, you need to choose a competent supplier who is capable of doing all these kind of interfaces. Of course, you save a lot of cost when you contract everyone individually, but the liability and the responsibility becomes very high on the APC side, because you need to hire extra resources to do the interfaces, to do to cover for the schedule gaps, and to conduct the multiple meetings between different parties in order to align your design. But if you're giving this as a single source supplier, it's much easier. But in the end, if you're specifically talking about the DCS, it's always a challenge, because normally in some projects you get a DCS system along with a separate e-house, okay, for the DCS system. But of course, if you can do them both for the substation and the DCS system supplier, it's always a good thing. But in the end, it comes here as an interface issue. If you put your schedule of the DCS supplier along with the substation supplier aligned together, you can get the supplier to test everything at the e-house supplier to test the interfaces. It's always also a good thing to do. So it depends on on your schedule as an EPC, how you manage the schedule of both suppliers and how you align them together and get them together to do the testing together.
I disagree when you said it's cheaper to have different suppliers and you manage them.
I'm talking from equipment.
Okay,
from an equipment cost.
Because what we're forgetting is, and this is from the client point of view, everything requires a procurement process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a specification. It's gone to the market. It's clarification. It's a person managing that. It's then bringing procurement in. And if you do it for 10 different packages, it's just going to cost too much time. That's why we prefer to bundle it with one supplier, so that I've got one point of contact. The EPC helps us with that package, and then we have got one point and it gets channeled through that. I don't have multiple procurement teams, multiple delays. Yeah. It all gets managed by one integrator, and that reduces my risk.
The question is, how to define the package size? For example, would you procure the electrical equipment separately from the substations? What's the scope split, and how to define?
But then we get into the integration and the interface issues. It doesn't fit, but Mr. Client, you ordered it, and it doesn't fit. And Funk says, well, guys, it's not plugging and playing. It becomes my issue.
What is your answer to that?
Then I've got to spend more money to fix it.
I think the ultimate is risk. Where do you want to take the risk? For us, we've seen too often that clients initially on paper, they think, oh, if I split this in separate packages, it's cheaper. And at the end of the day, it just costs them more money, because all the headaches of the misalignment with the interfaces becomes the problem of the client.
Yes.
And as a system integrator, we take that on with our experience that we will integrate these systems.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit. And just getting back to your DCS scenario, we've even built buildings in the past where we built the substation and the field auxiliary room next to each other. We lay the cables between them. We do all the integrated testing at our facility. And then all we do is disconnect the cable, roll it back to the building, and then send them to site.
Yeah, so, that's an ideal situation.
Yeah, absolutely. because
did you still do hardwired interfaces?
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I really think we should have
for the next webinar.
I'm sorry, but
that's another subject. It's coming. Smart motor control for next time. But I think the interface management is where the real challenge is, and the worst position that everyone can get in is that you get a game of broken telephone. That the client is in the middle between 5 different suppliers, and all the communication has to go through the client. And in the end, this is when you result on site when cable A doesn't plug into cable B, and then the headache starts.
And what does the client do? The client is worried about his business. He's not the specialist in electrical. He's not the specialist.
Fix it.
Yeah. Why are we spending our time in that when we want our products to be manufactured? That's where our specialty is. We know what we want functionally. let the specialists.
And I would love to have a conversation with you and your procurement department.
I'm sure they're on their webinar. We'll arrange and
We'll arrange it. Looking forward to it.
No, but this is a discussion because in the end, you cannot just offload the complete scope to one sub-supplier. I mean, there's always a role for the EPC to play because
Absolutely.
we don't know anything about the motor, the physical equipment in the field. There might be different substations. Some are concrete, some are substations. So it's always a challenge how to define these packages and how to best manage it. And that's, I think, a discussion again for feed stage where we need to have clarity on how to eliminate interfaces without creating new ones, because sometimes you eliminate one but you create other ones that might even be more challenging to manage. And especially DCS is always one, because the DCS needs to know everything about process. The substation designer doesn't know anything about the process.
But that's where it interfaces. We've had scenarios in the past where we've had free issued equipment installed in our building, but it had zero interfacing with the building. Now then it makes sense to do it then. So it's finding the package, and I think the goal specifically for EPC would be to minimize the number of packages. Getting to one is a utopia to find someone to do everything.
That's the
It'll never happen. It'll never happen.
But
minimize the interfaces and align the schedules of all suppliers in order to be able to test everything beforehand at the factory in order to eliminate any errors outside. That's the key.
I have another question about this. As an EPC, does it help to buy equipment and the e-house from the OEM? Because some OEMs are also offering the e-house solution, or is it better to have a system integrator who is called?
Oh, don't ask me.
Very tricky one. It's a very tricky one. But as an EPC, we always look for the big names and the big market changers. So this is also a key for us. If we're going to the big supplier or big name, I don't want to mention any names here, but it's key here, because if you're going to a big name, it's also a key for us. You need to you make sure that this supplier is a reputable supplier that who can do all this kind of work, and he has a history of projects, especially e-house projects that he performed in the past. So I would say I would stay neutral on this. It depends on who is the supplier and who is the system integrator. And what is the history of each of one of them in performing this kind of project or this kind of equipment. So this is the key for me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I have had these discussions also with Vonk on several projects. It depends on the type of the project. In some cases, we see that the majority of the revenue stream in the project is related to the equipment. So I would say, let's see where the majority of the responsibility lies. If it's a very challenging equipment project, then I think the equipment supplier should take the full responsibility because he got the complexity. If the equipment is limited and there's free issue materials, so there's other equipments in there, then it's far more a system integrator type of project. So at least in Schneider Electric, we can do both. I mean, we are definitely with Vonk engaged in some of these projects where we sit together, say, okay, this is definitely more system integrator scope because that's more third-party, other elements to be integrated, while others we take on ourselves, and we can even collaborate with Vonk as a subcontractor to us. So there's not...
Depends on the equipment that you're providing inside the substation. So switch gear, UPS, VFD, all these kind of things, I would say Schneider can do this kind of equipment. So if they are old equipments can be provided by Schneider, for example, okay, why not contract Schneider and then Schneider can subcontract Vonk? And it depends on the other way around. Depends also on the equipment. If you're just providing a switchgear and everything is free issued, or I specify to you some certain suppliers that you need to provide the equipment from. Like some projects, it's like that. You got a supplier, a sensor, or a package that is pre-ordered that we need to fit it inside the substation. So in the end, we need to approach it that way. So it also depends on the project scope and requirements.
I think from our purpose, as system integrators, we always try and find the best fit solution. So although we work strongly with Schneider on many projects, we've worked with many other OEMs as well. Because often, not to be negative against the OEM, but what I do think, if you go to an OEM and you ask for a solution, you will get an OEM solution, which is with their products. But
that's what you asked me.
Exactly. But it could be the best solution is 2 products from this OEM and 1 product from that OEM. And that's why...
but here comes your competency as a system integrator, how you manage the interface between the two different OEMs
Absolutely.
quite efficiently.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the responsibility that we
Yes.
have to take.
Yes.
So I can understand the hesitancy sometimes from a client to say, look, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can be the best solution.
Yeah.
But once again, open discussion is the way to do it, because we are being pushed by clients and EPCs,
Yeah.
cost effects and good solutions, and we do the same with the OEMs. So if
Yes.
the OEMs then has a solution that doesn't fully match the client's need, this is a discussion that we have then.
And then you've got to contend with the client's preferred bidders list,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
which is also something we need to modernize.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
And if it's just on a cost basis, because sometimes we think we're getting a bang for our buck on cost with a certain vendor, and if we procure it, we can get it cheaper.
Mhm.
I've seen models where, okay, let the system integrator purchase it. Maybe it's 10% more, but there's a rebate within the project which could be handed into for other things within the product.
Mhm.
So there's clever ways and mechanisms of doing this, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Fully agree.
Great, nice conversation. We covered a lot. We need to round it up now and use the time for questions from our audience. We discussed quality, cost, performance, specifications, execution strategy, and if standardization is possible. It was great hearing all your input, and I also learned a lot. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And